From her downtown Richmond, VA studios, it's Community Chat with Dr. Cat, the fastest growing digital talk show discussing solutions for everyday people with everyday problems. Hit us up with your comments at drcatford.com. Now, here's your host, Dr. Cat Ford.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Community Chat with Dr. Cat. I am your host, Dr. Cat Ford. And here, we're here to get the real deal on some information, people. I have some experts because in the field of mental health. Today, we're talking about the effects of mental health in the school systems. I don't think a lot of people don't go to school to be teachers and learn about mental health. So I'm here with some educators and some mental health specialists. I have Mrs. Latoya Williams, who works in the urban school system. She's a school teacher, along with another expert. She's expert in trauma and within mental health. She works in school systems, and she's a trainer and consultant, Ms. Katava Burton. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Ms. Williams, because you work in a super urban school system, because I used to work with you there as well. Pop, pop, bang, bang. Explain to us and explain to my community how do you see mental health in the school? What does it look like? Describe what it looks like.
Well, it's growing.
Okay.
I can say that. And it seems to a lot of educators, it seems like it's a lot of angry kids.
Okay.
That's how a lot of us look at it. The students, they get in trouble, constantly get in trouble. You can't contact parents. It just seems like the kids is on their own. Okay. Always want to fight, just angry all the time.
So, and then with that, you're not talking about kids who are diagnosed with a learning disability like special ed. This is just the regular. This is the gen pop. We used to call it general population. Gen pop. Gen pop. Angry, lost, no support. And you said it's growing.
Yes,
and it's growing. And then Miss Burton, same with you. What do you see? What does it look like from your angle?
I'm just seeing a lot of hypotheses and misdiagnoses, and not necessarily from an educational standpoint, because a lot of mental health disorders, they mimic each other and symptoms overlap. So if you took a chart and wrote ODD, ADHD, trauma, anxiety, you'll probably check a lot of the same symptoms. So really trying to figure out what it is.
Okay. And see, and one of the things, having had the experience of working in a school system as a school counselor, then working as a community provider, providing mental health services and being a clinical director and then a therapist, the key thing that I noticed that you have special education, which is the state recognizes that because these kids, they get tested and they're qualified to receive assistance with education. But when it comes to mental health, like all those diagnoses you name, the school really can't do anything because that's called mental health, and there's no mental health diagnosis under special education, under IDEA. You just have your learning disability, emotion disturbed, mental health,
intellectual disabled,
like that.
Autism.
But ODD, opposition defiant, that's a clinical term. That's from the DSM-5. Your anxiety, DSM-5. So you may be lucky to get what's called a 504 plan, which will recognize that this child has a medical, because mental health disorder is a medical disorder. Okay, people, it's not just, oh, that child crazy. Oh, she got bipolar. Oh, she just depressed. Mental health disorder, those are medical problems. Those are medical issues that says that you cannot function for what reason in a social setting, a family setting, an occupational setting. That is a medical diagnosis. And unfortunately, the school systems are not trained to deal with that. And then I understand in the urban school system, you see the brunt end of it because you're the school counselor, from the teachers griping, parents griping, students griping, security, and the police, the school police. We had police in our school griping.
Resource officers,
correct term, resource officers griping because of the what? Mental health.
Yes.
And you see the mental health.
And the good thing about it is we are all getting trained now.
Good.
But it's going to take some time.
Okay.
And once again, with a lot of the things that's going on in the community, we have more and more students that's being traumatized. And so with that increase, I mean, this training has to happen immediately, and we have to be able to pick up on these symptoms before it gets worse.
Because what I saw is when people don't understand, they become frustrated.
Absolutely.
And they make it worse.
Right.
They make that. The students are angry because somebody called them crazy, or I don't want to deal with that right now. What would you say, the same thing as far as it increasing?
Yes, definitely increase. The statistic is 1 in 5. So
Oh, wow.
1 in 5 children have a mental health illness. So
Okay.
it's very prevalent. And I think 1 in 4 for trauma. So.
1 in 4. And then I know when I was in the school system, it was 1 in 3 in the building that we were working in. It was 1 in 3 who was diagnosed with special education.
Yes.
Didn't include my mental health babies. It didn't
Or the
have-
ones that's suffering in silence.
and
Right.
suffering in silence.
And because they're not saying anything, they're overlooked. But
Yeah.
they have those internalizing behaviors like, depression. So
And depression in youth, everyone, is not always necessarily gloom and, it's irritation. When they're irritated, that's how some depression in youth manifests. Well, ladies, it's been a great topic. We have some more solutions coming up. We're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors, Community Chat with Dr. Cat.
You're listening to Community Chat with Dr. Cat, sponsored by
Marion Marketing Global. You know those guys over at Marion Marketing Global? They can do everything from billboards to bus signs. Marion Marketing Global, changing the world and expanding your brand every day, each day. Marion Marketing Global, 804-938-5218. Check us out on the web at marionmarketingglobal.com.
This is Tanya Free, inviting you to join the conversation at TanyaFree.com, your destination for the best in social and political straight talk, 24/7. Keep up with the latest news, answer my question of the week, post your comments, and weigh in on the hottest topics of the day and the issues affecting our community. Live life with a purpose. Join the conversation today at TanyaFree.com, your destination for social and political straight talk.
Hello, thank you. Welcome back with Community Chat with Dr. Cat. I'm Dr. Cat Ford here with my professional and excellent, beautiful guest, Ms. Latoya Williams, who's a urban school guidance counselor, as well as Mr. Tava Burton, who is an expert. She works in the school system, but she's a consultant for trauma. And earlier we were talking about mental health and what mental health looks like in schools with the children. Now let's talk about if someone's listening and watching, what are some suggestions that you ladies, because you've been successful working with your students and your colleagues, what would you all say, what's the best way to help an individual that has mental health issues, they're manifesting these behaviors, and they do not have a 504 plan or an IEP? Those are the lucky ones because they're in services. But the ones that are not diagnosed as far as school is concerned, what are some of the suggestions you have for people?
Well, what we can do is we can look at doing a child study just to get an overview of the student and see where these behaviors are coming from. But then also I would say we have therapeutic day treatment in some of our schools. We have communities in schools. They have resources that can help students.
Okay.
So there's a lot of resources, and you also can refer out for students as well. But sometimes it's just best if you just use what you have in-house, because we have to build that trust first for the students to go outside and speak with someone that they really don't know.
Okay, so you mentioned the word therapeutic day treatment. So
Yes.
in your school system, describe what day treatment is?
So with day treatment, they have a relationship with the students and their parents, and they go to their classes to check on them throughout the day. They have a rapport with the parents, so they send them information every day to let them know if any behaviors have changed or if anything they saw during that day, things that the parents can kind of look out for. So it's like a support system while they're in school, so that if they have a breakdown or something happen, it's someone that can support them with the mental health in school.
Okay, and so just people who are listening in our area, because I used to have a program that did mental health provided services in the school, and day treatment is you would have qualified mental health providers, people who are qualified for mental health, that will go in when a child is identified as having a DS5 diagnosis, mental health diagnosis, your ODD, your anxiety, your depression, bipolar disorder. You will have a person, like a support person, that will go with them, either with them in class or at least be available on site when certain behaviors manifest and they need assistance. And so that's excellent, and it seems like that probably helps a good portion of the kids
yes.
if they're able to get into the program, because a lot of it is Medicaid based,
Yes.
and that's if the mama got the Medicaid number straight. No, and that's a whole other situation. Miss Burton, yeah, I mean, it is what it is sometimes. Miss Burton, what are some other services, and especially even with some of the teachers who are watching or listening, what can they do to help out with individuals who are suffering from mental health issues in school?
Right. Well, so one of the things that I provide training on mental health first aid,
Okay.
and it shows teachers and counselors or whomever, even a parent, how to recognize the signs and symptoms of someone with a mental health disorder. So I think it's the first step, understanding the signs and symptoms
Okay.
of anxiety,
Okay.
of a depressive disorder, and not that we can diagnose, but at least you can say, this child is exhibiting these behaviors. Let me have my antennas on, my spidey sense. And then you have to connect and engage with the families, because
Okay.
even if you refer a student to CIS or to the TDT program, the parent has to consent. And also, parents aren't engaged because they're not really involved. So we
Okay.
have to involve them and engage them and actually physically show them. Some parents don't know how to ask for suspension records or Category 2 information to take to a therapist for an assessment.
Okay.
So sometimes it's more than just giving them a phone number and saying, hey, call the CSB, physically showing them how to do it, what to say, and supporting them. And I think that's the barrier. Parents really just don't know. And a lot of parents have their own mental health
I would say
issues.
some of them.
And so sometimes you may get, well, I did that when I was in school.
And they didn't help.
So, so there are a lot of barriers, but just going back to relationships and connections and just showing that parent that you're there for them.
And then you said communities and schools. That's another service in your school system that does what? Because it sounds like communities in the school. So what is that? What are they?
And so they also provide just probably like solution-focused counseling, where it's real short, but they kind of get to the point. They provide the families with a lot of things that they may need, as far as detergents, soap, all those tangibles that they will possibly need, food,
Okay.
and just another resource of someone to talk to. And they also have referrals that they can give to the students and
Connect
parents
that
as
with.
well.
Well, that's awesome. And then again, for those who are listening or watching, maybe that's something to look into, is even establishing a communities in school, because I believe that's like a nonprofit
Yes.
organization. Not trying to give them a whole full shout out, but this is something that someone could probably create within their schools or connect with schools, especially ones who are in, have in violent areas, violent neighborhoods, maybe a church. Churches can get together and connect and be that community in that school or that community in that neighborhood. And I keep hearing you ladies say is just support and support. And it seems like, people are not supporting one another anymore. And maybe that's one thing that will help prevent some of these explosive behaviors, or when the people, go off, or they, as the kids say, they snap. Because they feel unloved, unsupported. I mean, TV alone will make certain groups of people feel unloved, unsupported, unwanted, and so let alone what the kids deal with on a day-to-day basis, and having that type of support. And the other thing too, understand the fact with mental health, the different behaviors that kids exhibit when they're irritated. People think, oh, they're just being like teenagers. Oh, they're just being, they're being rebellious. But a lot of times, again, depression in teenagers, especially with our African American males, because they have the highest suicide rate right about now, are males that the irritability is a form of depression. It is a form of depression, and recognizing and knowing that. Are there any websites or any type of organizations you would suggest someone to connect to quickly? Anything you would think of?
I would definitely let people know to have the suicide hotline number on hand.
Okay.
And just know all the resources that's in your area.
Good.
And then also make sure that educators and parents know that, I know that sometimes the workload is a bit much, but you got to just take that time to just look, because you could be the person that can help that child.
Very good. What about you, Ms.
I was going
Burns?
to say the same.
Same thing.
Suicide 1-800-273-TALK.
Okay.
And NAMI Richmond.
Okay.
That's the National Association for Mental Illness.
And NAMI's national.
Yes.
There's NAMI's all
Right.
over.
And they're
yeah.
different chapters.
They're
We have
different
one
chapters.
here in Richmond, so
Okay.
I would definitely say.
Good. And again, people, there are resources out there, but one of the key things that you always want to definitely do is talk to your child, find out what's going on. Great, ladies. Thank you for being on the show. This is Community Chat with Dr. Kat. We put it down about understanding mental health. You got the real deal today. Hit me up on www.drkatford.com. Peace.
The opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints expressed by the various forum participants on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinion, beliefs, and viewpoints of Dr. Kat Ford or this station.